Will Pierre Poilievre survive the leadership review? We have a few clips coming up here. I'm just going to take the highlights of the clips. Here we go.
So let's get the obvious question out of the way first, which is, will Pierre Poilievre get the numbers he needs to stay on as the leader?
Yes, in my opinion. I think there's almost no way that won't happen.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. You can take this one to the bank. He will get the numbers that is needed. He's very popular in the Conservative Party. And like Stephanie Kuzy just said, whatever the number is, it's for the leader to determine what he does next. And I expect his next move will be a heck of a speech he's going to give to the party faithful out there in Calgary.
Okay, so let me ask.
I don't doubt that. I think Poilievre is popular in the CPC. I also do think he gives above average speeches.
You about the level of support do you think that Pierre Poilievre really needs to have right now to move forward with the overall mood in the party?
Really is the magic question. Everybody wants to.
It's a good question, but I don't really think the number actually matters. I have kind of some other thoughts or concerns, you could say. I'll address those as we move through the interview.
There a number. I think, if you take a look at what Stephen Harper got in the past, I thought it was around 87%. That to me is a really high bar. I don't know whether or not that's actually possible, but we'll see what ends up happening for Pierre. I would expect, I'm going to peg it above 75% is probably what somebody would like to have to be very comfortable. But regardless of the number, it's going to be in the hands of the leader to determine what to do with it. And like I said, he is a very popular figure in Conservative movement.
What do you think, though, Lisa, his speech really needs to convey when he speaks tomorrow and the path forward?
Again, that's a good question. Yeah.
You know what I'm looking for from him? I want a speech on unity. I want a speech on unity in the party. I want a speech on unity in this country. I don't think we're making enough efforts to make sure that all of Canada is happy with the direction we're going in. And we see that popping up in Quebec and Alberta. And I want to see a national leader who takes the matter seriously and reaches out to everybody across, because we need to be cohesive in this country together if we're going to be facing all of the geopolitical problems external to us.
Okay, I'm going to go pretty negative here, but I actually do not agree with that. I think they could strive for CPC unity to try to get all the Conservatives on board if you're Poilievre, but unity in the country, I think the CPC should go negative. Remember back in 2024 when Poilievre's polling was at its height? The Liberals would pull their hair out. They disliked him so much. A lot of that, I'd say, derangement has moved to Trump, but when Poilievre was at his peak in polling, none of the Liberals pretty much liked him. A lot of talking heads in Canadian media really did not like him at all, but it was working. I think Poilievre, if you pivot to try to be the national unity guy, I think Carney is going to have the natural advantage there. He's literally in kind of the center political party, NDP to the left, Conservative to the right, and Carney's reputation is a globalist. So I think strategically, the CPC and Poilievre should go negative, should say Canada's way too expensive. It's just like the hits. Poilievre used to do that against Trudeau, and he had great polling numbers.
Here is the latest analysis from 338 Canada. Based on available polls, 338 says Conservatives are at 42% support. The Liberals are at 24%. New Democrats sit at 18%.
It's interesting you bring that up because, of course, that was a part of a conversation, major conversation in Ottawa today. We heard, of course, from most of the premiers, whether it's David Eby or whether it's Wab Kanu or Danielle Smith herself on the particular meeting that the separatist group had in the U.S. Let me ask you about Conservative sentiment towards that, though. That particular meeting at a time when relationships with the U.S. are very difficult at the moment, Lisa.
Conservatives believe in a united Canada. That's what I fundamentally believe. That's my friends. That's people who I work with across this country. That's what my leader has said. That's what Danielle Smith has said. She has said that she believes that an Alberta that is strong within a sovereign Canada. And that's kind of what my point of view is. Is it interesting to me that there are meetings happening in Washington? Sure. We don't know the extent of the meetings. We don't know if they're even taken seriously. But what I can say...
Look, I think she made a great point there on the meetings. Not so much what you said before that, but this meeting that everyone is outraged about has David Eby shouting treason. What was the meeting? Who was it with? There's no specifics. There's no details. Everyone just is turning up the Trump derangement to 20 over that.
It's up to Canadians to show.
But when U.S. Treasury Secretary talks about Alberta, I think they are being taken seriously. It's not like they are not listening and they're not watching what's happening here.
They are. Certainly they're watching what's happening. But I mean, if we think that the independent movement, whatever that is in Alberta, is taking serious high-level meetings with the Washington administration, I don't think that's the case whatsoever.
Okay.
Do I think that the Americans are watching and playing mischief when it comes to this movement? Absolutely. And that's why we need to be strong and solid and determined to stay together.
Let me talk to you about what has happened in the...
I don't even agree with that. What mischief? Like, what could it possibly be? Just having the meeting? Maybe just the act of having a meeting is the mischief, because they know that Canadian media can't help themselves and then they freak out about it. Maybe that's the mischief. I don't know.
Recent past within the Conservatives, we all saw the defections that took place. They don't look on the party leadership. Pierre Poilievre's personal ratings are way down as compared to the Prime Minister at the moment. So I'm going to ask you about, what do you think Pierre Poilievre needs to do to project and communicate to bridge that gap?
Again, that's actually a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's interesting. I think they're taking the right tack in the House of Commons right now, focusing on affordability and what everyday people are seeing at the grocery store, because those are the questions that matter to Canadians, and those are the things that people eventually may vote on. I think they're on the right track. That's the kind of thing that they have to continue to hammer home on. Look, it's impossible to protect against any kind of individual who thinks they want to walk across the floor to the Liberals for their personal...
Look, I agree with the affordability thing, but I think Poilievre has to couple that with the same energy he had before Carney swapped out Trudeau, when he was going on biting the apple.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
certainly
Give me
you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological stuff.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways,
I don't really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given, not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not
just
sure.
wondering.
I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense.
Okay.
Common sense for a change.
He didn't seem to care about triggering Liberals. I'm not saying that you do that on purpose, but just the act of actually standing firmly in your conservative beliefs is going to trigger Liberals. And I think you have to do that. You have to provide an alternate view to Carney. If you play the national unity game, like I said, I think Carney just has the advantage. Just a 30-second clip here. We'll see what they're saying at CP24.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is expected to survive a leadership review tomorrow evening in Calgary, despite last year's election loss.
The Conservative Party convention begins today in Calgary. The party's constitution...
The leadership review is tonight, by the way. This clip is from one day ago.
Says if a leader doesn't resign after an election loss, members are required to vote on their future. Recent polling from Nanos Research showed the Conservatives and Liberals within a few points of one another, but when it comes to Canada's preferred Prime Minister, Poilievre is now polling at 24.8%, while Prime Minister Mark Carney sits at 52.8%.
And look, to the degree you believe that poll, that gap is massive. That's why I firmly believe Poilievre has to have a different strategy. I think just go back to the well of what worked. Affordability, another quick tangent. Let's say economic growth in Canada, okay? Affordability sounds like something you teach someone when they're too dumb to understand what the economy even means. I'll finish the video here with one more take. It might actually be the most important take there is in this discussion. It's a very quick one here.
And I think there's no one actively organizing against Pierre. That's just a fact. And so I think he will be given a chance to lead the party into the next election, whenever that's be. If the Liberals are going to orchestrate something this spring or beyond, all the politics.
Look, that's true. If Poilievre was not the leader of the CPC, who would it be? I honestly don't even know. Like, Andrew Scheer, Jamil Giovanni. I have no clue who would actually take the mantle from Poilievre. So almost for that reason alone, it's very likely Poilievre will continue on. But anyway, with that said, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Have a great day.